with the Cowboy Chronicles, the Oklahoman's Oklahoma State football podcast. I am your host, Scott Wright, joined by Jacob Unruh. It is Monday. That means we're at Stone Cloud. We're here a little earlier than usual because you are repping the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
Big game going on today that you wanted to be done in time for. So,
my mind might be elsewhere.
Right, yeah, understandable.
It's a big time in my world right now.
It's very exciting for you right now, and I can't blame you at all. So, well, listen, we got lots to get to. We spoke with Mike Gundy earlier today, which was a fairly ho-hum press conference, I thought.
Yeah.
Nothing too
routine.
Exciting. Yeah, pretty routine. We'll
got off topic a little bit at times.
Yeah,
I think we started talking about Hail Marys a little.
Right, yeah.
A lot, actually.
Yes,
and
exactly.
There was another time I think it got really cut off. I can't remember when.
Yeah, got really derailed a couple of times. Nothing too crazy.
No.
But fun stuff that we will share with you here in a little bit. Of course, we want to remind you to subscribe to the Oklahoman's Oklahoma State Athletics newsletter, where we produce lots of fun stuff. We're doing some midseason grades this week for the Oklahoma State football team. So jump in there, subscribe to the newsletter, and get that delivered directly to your inbox. With that, what are we drinking?
Oh, man. You know, I'm feeling a little feisty today after the Rangers went up 1-0 last night.
Right.
So I'm going with the Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee.
The Bruce Lee. It's
a
double IPA, a hazy, and it's fantastic. Lots of flavor. One of their, I think it's a rotator for them, but they have it a lot. It tends to be one they bring back a lot. It's really popular. They also have the Chug Norris and some other ones like that throughout the year. So I think this is appropriate today because I'm feeling just a little feisty with the Rangers here against the Astros.
Ready to fight with the Astros.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I had that one. I can't remember if I had that one on the show or not, but I have had that one earlier this year. Big fan. I got to remember Ziggy Hop Dust. That's what I'm drinking.
Yes,
Ziggy Hop
that's
Dust,
a good one.
Which I'm a little curious how it's going to go for me. It obviously has hops in the title.
Yeah.
I don't know. My body doesn't always care for hops, but we'll see.
Okay.
But the 8% ABV kind of excited me on a Monday afternoon with some baseball going on.
Yeah.
So.
It was interesting looking at the menu today here at Stone Cloud. I'll say this. This is my way of pumping them up because people should come out to Stone Cloud. They
Absolutely.
should drink their beer. If you've seen it in stores, grab it. It's a fantastic place. I still think, even before you came here for our podcast, best place in the state to have a beer. But their menu was a little slim today. They said, and she said because they had a really busy weekend and emptied a lot of kegs. So I think Mike Gundy brought his keg stand over, or some others did, but they had a good weekend. So I'm really happy for Stone Cloud on that.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been a big supporter of the show, and we greatly appreciate them letting us come hang out and record this every Monday and occasional other times that we show up. So with that. We will remind you that if you're watching on YouTube, go down in the comments, drop your prediction for Oklahoma State, West Virginia. You can win a beer that we will drink for you next week. And the winner of this week's beer was, once again, we had a repeat winner.
Oh,
Go Pokes 1983. He was really close
2
weeks ago with the Kansas State game. Really close again this week. 31-27 was his score prediction.
Oh, okay.
Right in the range. Had OSU scoring over 30, which they had not done until this week.
Yeah,
that was a milestone moment for this offense that continues to head in the right direction. There was a lot of talk about that to kind of segue into Mike Gundy. A lot of talk about what's getting this offense going. He was asked about, obviously things like settling on Alan Bowman and Ollie Gordon as your primary two guys at quarterback and running back is part of that. He was asked a couple of times about the early scripts that they're using when they're coming out to get the game going because they've scored touchdowns early on multiple 2 games in a row now, which they hadn't done since October of last year.
Yeah.
So,
It's been a long time.
Yeah, so there's some things like that, but Gundy keeps coming back to the changes they made after the South Alabama game to limit the amount of things they're asking the offensive line to do, letting them get comfortable and get good at a few things rather than asking them to do a bunch. And that simplification, he feels like, has been the key to getting this offense going. Then you add in the fact that, yes, they're pumping the ball to Ollie Gordon, and Alan Bowman is more settled and more comfortable. He talked about that on Saturday. All of it seems to start with that offensive line being able to have some success. We've talked on the show, we've pumped up Dalton Cooper, and I'm not saying this to take away from him. Obviously, he got hurt, but he has been really solid, and his move to left tackle seemed to be one of the pieces that was unifying this group. Now he gets hurt. Jake Springfield jumps from right over to left, and the offensive line kept going. Joe Michalski played really well, according to Pro Football Focus. I don't know enough about offensive line play to tell you, other than him just barreling over people and pancaking guys. I'm not going to try to.
He's a center, so he had good snaps.
Exactly.
And, he was the highest grade in the nation, is what I think someone pointed out.
Among centers, he was the highest grade on Pro Football Focus.
I think all this settling in and all this stuff, they've gotten creative too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like they've done more creativity. They've done a flea flicker the last 2 games. Pretty soon we're going to start seeing more passes to Alan Bowman, and they're just doing these things that are catching teams off guard because there is that comfort level finally, I think, and I think finally this is my assumption. I've not asked Casey Dunn this. I don't know, but I think there's a little bit of, I don't want to say there's a little bit of, oh, screw it, let's just do it. But I think there's a little bit of, we got to have some fun here. We got to do something different to really get this thing going, because then it gets, once they do something creative kind of like that, I feel like the team gets a little bit more momentum too.
Right, exactly. And I think Alan Bowman's veteran experience is playing in with some of these things. He doesn't get rattled very easily. No. A lot of guys on that flea flicker last week would have panicked when option 1 and option 2 is not open.
Yeah.
He has to wait for Presley to turn around because Presley was there to block in case he needed to be. All of a sudden he turns around, scoots out of the backfield a little bit, boom, there he is, and he's going for a touchdown.
Last year Spencer Sanders would have just tucked it and ran.
Yeah, oh yeah, he would have been running for, as soon as 1 and 2 were gone, he would have been out of the pocket and gone. Alan Bowman, I thought, had a very interesting game for this reason. Statistically, it was, you could say it was his best game, 68% completion percentage, 336 yards, most productive that he had been, but he also had a couple of the most dangerous looking decisions that we've seen him make. He's obviously not afraid to throw the ball away when a throw is not there, when a play is not there. There were a couple of throws that could have been picked off pretty easily, it seemed like, on Saturday. One of them, Kobe Bryant, could have gone the distance the other direction.
Oh, yeah. And Kobe Bryant not completing that play really, really surprised me.
Yeah.
Once I realized that was Kobe Bryant, I thought, how does this play not happen? Because that guy has NFL capabilities.
Oh, yeah.
He's been really good for them. Him not do that was a big missed opportunity by Kansas. But it was a bad throw. And Bowman admitted that. And I wondered at the time, did Bowman think he had a free play? Because that was when Kansas did the double sub.
Right.
And nearly had a 12th guy in the field. He didn't snap it just quick enough, but he told me he didn't think he had a free play. Yeah. So I still find that fascinating that was a back throw. But Mike talked about that today, about Bowman's not setting his feet enough. He's a little, I don't say skittish, but he tends to try to move the pocket a little too much sometimes, is not letting the pocket protect him, where the last 3 games, the offensive line's been giving him a nice protection and a nice big bubble to really work with.
Yep.
And he's not hanging in there, and I think that's the internal clock, or as Mike calls it, the biological clock.
Yes.
For the love of God. It's the internal clock. But anyways, his internal clock is going a little too fast, and I think that's a result of the offensive line being so bad the first 3 games of the season. And he was really hammered by that, being the guy that started 2 of those games and getting the beginning of that, where the offensive line was really struggling. That I think that he's just a little jumpy, and they're working on that and figuring out things to do to fix that, and he's getting better. Mike said he's getting better, but he's still not there yet.
Yeah, and one of the other things he said was that he was maybe trying to get rid of the ball so quickly in certain situations that he was throwing off his back foot or not setting his feet, like you said, and leading some throws that were missing. He did miss a couple of throws. He had the 2 that we talked about that were almost picked, but overall, I thought a really solid game. Obviously, if those 2 passes get picked, we're talking about it very differently. So that's a really important thing. But his comfort level in this offense seems to be on the incline every single week, and that's really important.
It also helps when you have Ollie Gordon.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
Big 12 co-offensive player of the week.
You can dump it to Ollie Gordon on the first play of the game, and he goes 50 yards. You can hand it off to him, and he runs for 42 yards. I mean, it's really helpful to have Ollie Gordon, I think, for Alan Bowman, but I do like the progression Alan's made.
One of the interesting things, and this wasn't discussed during the press conference, it was during the walk-off afterwards, where we get to talk a little bit more to Gundy kind of on the side, a little more casual setting. There were concerns about Ollie Gordon's speed coming out of high school.
I thought that was fascinating.
I was fascinated by that. Basically, they looked at him with the, big body, big frame, and good athletic ability, and said, well, if it doesn't work at running back, he can be a linebacker. I think it's working out okay at running back.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a linebacker.
No.
It's fascinating because his high school was playing him at quarterback
Right.
to get the ball in his hands because they didn't have a quarterback
Right.
that could do that consistently. So it was like they put Ollie there because he was fast. I just find it fascinating they had questions to the speed.
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't just OSU. It didn't sound like. It sounded like that
that
was
was
a
pretty common.
pretty common complaint or a concern across the board from coaches that were recruiting him out of Euless Trinity. So, very interesting stuff there. In terms of the offensive side of the ball, there was a lot of talk about some different players here and there. Rashad Owens, you wrote about him last week. He goes in and outperforms even his first week's numbers. He has really settled in at that number one receiver position on the outside.
Yeah, I like what he's been doing. I think I might have talked about this. I can't remember. Taking the pressure off getting the ball to Jaden Bray.
Yeah.
I might have talked about that Saturday night on the way home. It was a little late. I'm a little.
was.
We slept since then. So, but he's just bringing this veteran presence. Mike talked about the maturity and the development, and that's part of this process OSU likes to use is get guys here, let them grow, and develop. And Rashad's a perfect example of that. He's a guy that he probably could have left in the portal. I mean,
Probably
he's
so.
talented enough. He's
Yeah.
big enough, smart enough.
Mm-hmm.
Someone would have wanted him, but he stayed, and instead now he's getting his chance. It took another injury to get him his chance
Right.
consistently, but he's a guy that can play slot, can play both outside positions. He's played both in the game this season. Do that. Was a tight end for a minute. They're slimming him down now, so I don't think they put him back there in that position now. But this is a guy that you really got to enjoy what he's doing, that gets the 100-yard game, does all this stuff, because if you've watched him the last few years, you see what he's been through. He's been a guy that they really like, but it's not quite his turn yet.
Yeah.
Or he's not quite ready, or we're going to move him here, and he's got to develop in this position before we can use him.
Right.
And it seems like there's one thing after another, and now it feels like this is his time, and it's really cool because he's a guy we didn't expect to have his
Right.
time at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't look like he was even in line.
Yeah.
Really, it looked like Talon Shetron would be the guy, and they just feel like Shetron could use a little bit more time to rotate in here and there, get his feet under him as a redshirt freshman to be able to take that next step, which I think he's going to. I think he's incredibly talented. But this has been a really important development for this offense. Owens, my favorite thing you had in your story was that he spent some time as an emergency running back.
Yes.
Before the bowl game last
Because
year.
he played running back in high school,
Yes.
so I guess last year, and I forget that I need to go back and look it up. The running back situation entering the bowl game, they might have been down just to Ollie and Jaden, right?
They had DeAndre Jackson as well
DeAndre
at
Jackson.
that time, but that was it.
I think maybe Jaden had been banged
Right,
up a little
been
bit. They're
dealing with some
concerned about
injuries.
depth,
Right.
And they had Rashad Owens playing running back in practice at times to work there in case he needed him. And I mean, that speaks to the talent of this guy.
And their trust in him.
And their trust, yeah, absolutely. Because Mike's not going to do that with just anybody.
No.
But this is a guy I think it's just really cool to see him get this chance. Because entering the season, when you start looking at the receiver depth charts and stuff like that, I don't even think I remember Rashad Owens was even still with the team.
Right.
He didn't. Not that I'm saying he was bad. He just wasn't a guy at the forefront of my mind.
Right.
And now it's pretty cool to see him have this chance.
Yep. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, we talked a little bit with Mike Gundy about Colin Oliver, because obviously this dude is incredibly talented when he comes off the edge and goes and rushes the passer. Really high marks for everything he does with that. I was curious, within the framework of the defense, how they feel he's playing in the other areas, and Mike Gundy really likes what he's doing there,
Yeah.
how he's developing. Now, it sounded like he was also making his plea, Colin, don't go, stick around for one more
Stay
year.
one more season, develop
One
as a
more year.
linebacker, you'll go to
Exactly.
the NFL, and you'll
Yeah.
have a good career.
Exactly. So that's that's obviously, this is all new to him. He's seeing things on game days still that he's seeing for the first time from that perspective. It's a very different position from when he's up there on the line of scrimmage and can just be like a coiled up cobra and attack, which he's so talented at. That first step is ridiculously impressive.
Yeah.
But playing in space, playing side to side more, all of those things he's learning how to do, and I think he's only scratching the surface of what he can be in this position going forward.
I think I'm going to make a little prediction. I think Colin returns.
I sort of think so too.
When you talk to him, he knows he's working on these things and has a lot to develop at this position. And I think, and I keep bumping the table, I'm sorry, and I think he realizes that. But I thought that was fascinating from Gundy today talking about that, because I'd kind of wondered, where do you put Colin in the NFL? Mm-hmm. And I think Gundy's right. I don't think he's quite big enough to be that pure edge rusher.
Right.
But a guy like that, he could do this linebacker, he can rush, he can do all kinds of things. I think he could really fit one of those outside linebacker roles in the NFL. I think Micah Parsons is bigger. I think we've looked this up before.
A little bit, not a lot though.
Not a lot bigger. So I don't think he's going to be Micah Parsons. But I'm just throwing out a guy. But
Parsons is ridiculously fast.
Yes.
Like he ran like a 4.3 at the combine.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah. He was a 5-star out of high school. Completely lived up to the billing. But I think in that kind of role, you could almost model Colin a little bit.
Yeah.
Not exactly the same role, but I think there's some capabilities.
There's a similar mold that they're cut from. I think. So I think that's fair. You talked to Gundy about Dylan Smith.
Yeah.
Obviously, his older brother Cam Smith was a guy who nobody was talking about last year. All of a sudden, they have a couple injuries at corner. He pops up and takes that job and has kind of run with it. He's still out there quite a bit right now, rotating a little bit with DJ McKinney at that other side. Now, little brother Dylan Smith came in as a corner. They decided, it sounded like early August.
Yeah.
He wasn't exactly sure on the timeline, but it sounded like early August. They decided that he was a better fit at that kind of nickel corner position there, where Cam Epps is playing.
Yeah, Lyric Rawls, Cam Epps.
Lyric Rawls is hurt. Cam Epps playing now, and that's a really important position. And obviously, they have questions about who fits that mold well, and Dylan Smith is the guy that they really like there. He popped up with a big interception on Saturday. It's just it's a fun story for the family more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's brothers, and OSU recruits brothers.
Yeah.
I still, you never get a straight answer. I don't understand the fascination with brothers.
Right.
They do that a lot. They found him from a small town in Texas too, which I think is fascinating in itself. Yeah. But
it's so small it has little in the name.
It's true, Little Elm.
Little Elm,
yeah,
Texas.
Yeah, I like that. It's really cool that you see guys pop up that are unexpected like this. And Mike said, they're not exactly split reps with Epps and Dylan Smith, but I think Epps is going to get the majority of them. But I think it's a good development. You've got a guy that's a true freshman. You can't redshirt anymore. You have to play him, and he's going to develop. His brother's really young too. They're going to develop. I think it's really cool that you see some brothers like this that can stick around a little bit together. Because you've had the Harper brothers recently, the Wallace brothers. Got others that I'm just totally blanking on right now, but
obviously Bryson Green left, but you had the Green Twins, for a while, and, the Currys for those that go back a little bit farther.
Yeah, so I think it's fun. The family is clearly excited, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of where it goes from here with the brothers, because I think it said Coach Duffy's been giving him a hard time about some things and things like that, so it's been fun.
Yeah, I guess one of them he never said which was first team, which was second team on one of their kickoff designs. One of them was first team, one was backing up the other in the same spot, and he basically said, "If your brother can't do this, you're going in." So fun stories from Gundy on that. What else from Gundy stuck out to you?
I think we got to talk about the milestone that I honestly blanked was coming up.
Right.
Saturday is his 400th game as a Cowboy. Not a coach.
Right.
As a Cowboy. As a player for 4 seasons, as an assistant and offensive coordinator for 10 seasons, over a 15-year span, and then head coach. He's been 400th game on Saturday. That's incredible.
It really is. When you think about the fact that, maximum you're getting 14 games a year.
Yeah.
Like, to get to that number is pretty impressive. And there was a lot of talk, and we haven't done all the research necessary, and it's probably too hard to actually research all of the capabilities.
We don't have time. We have first pitch coming up soon.
That's exactly
We don't have time for that.
Yeah. So, but it seems like there's a pretty good chance that Gundy is in the top 10 of guys who, I'll say head coaches.
Yeah, head coaches, yeah.
in terms of all their games at one school, not just as a head coach, but who have been a head coach at that school. You take guys like Joe Paterno.
Joe Paterno was there for 42 years, I think, as a head coach at Penn State.
Right. So
he's got it just as the head coach. He's the head of Gundy.
Yes, exactly. So
Gundy said 1,000, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But you've got guys like that. But I think it sounds like there's a pretty good chance that Gundy's in the top 10 in terms of total games at one university as a, like you said, player assistant and now head coach. So pretty crazy. And you mentioned that there's another pretty unique milestone on the verge that if things go right could be on the line at Bedlam if I'm doing math correctly.
That's exactly right. Gundy is 3 wins away from 100 career wins in the Big 12, which would be the 3rd head coach to do that. Number 1, Bob Stoops, and then number 2 is Bill Snyder, and then number 3 right now is Mac Brown at 98. So he ties Mac Brown this week.
That's right.
If they win in Morgantown.
Yeah. So they win this one. Then they win homecoming at Cincinnati. Then all of a sudden you got Bedlam going for number 100.
Ooh.
That's, I know Gundy doesn't get wrapped up in those kind of things, but it is fascinating.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty
cool.
Pretty good stuff. All right. Anything else from Gundy that jumped out at you? I think
we're ready for our 6-pack.
I think we are. I think it is time for the Stone Cloud 6-pack. And we will jump in with some football categories that I have not told you anything about as usual.
Perfect.
So Oklahoma State at West Virginia. I'll be out there all by myself. You're going to be home for a whole lot of reasons that are too long to explain.
Well, the main one is it's Cohen's birthday. He turns 3 on Friday, and you also have the same birthday. So happy birthday!
I will also be 3.
Yes.
Plus 42. So Cohen he's my birthday buddy.
Yes.
I'm going to have to make it over to see him this week. I won't be able to see him on Friday because my flight leaves too soon, but I'll definitely be hanging out with Cohen at some point this week. But where was I going? Oh, that's why you're not at West Virginia.
Yeah.
I'll be there by myself. That's why we were discussing that. I haven't other than COVID, when there were a couple of games that I traveled alone. It's been pretty rare that I've been at a game by myself without a coworker. So anyway. Looking at that game, West Virginia looked like the big surprise team of this conference. Then they got Hail Married against Houston
by a former OSU player.
That's right.
Stephon Johnson caught the touchdown.
He did.
I almost brought that up to Mike, but I thought that might be a sore spot, so I didn't bring it up.
Yeah, he already had to talk about the Central Michigan game of 2016.
That's true.
Any more painful Hail Mary talk might have been too much. All right. With that, I'm mixing things up a little bit this week. Got some odd categories that I don't normally use. We're going to start. We're talking about the OSU offense in this category. Over or under a combined 1.5 sacks allowed and interceptions thrown. So we're combining sacks and picks together. Will it be over or under 1.5? They've been really good in both categories the last couple of games.
I'm going under. I think they've figured something out. I think they've got it figured out. And I think Bowman, though he's lived a little on the edge this last week, I feel like he's so protective of the football and is willing to throw the ball away. I really think I'm going to stick with the under on it.
I think there's a good chance that you're right. However, I'm going the other way. I feel like on the road, different environment. I think maybe maybe the offensive line has some issues. They give up a sack here or there. Maybe they throw a pick. So I'm going over the 1.5. I don't think it'll be way over.
Yeah.
I do think it'll be over. All right. Same question, reverse, but the number's different.
Okay.
Sacks and picks combined for the OSU defense off of West Virginia, over or under 4.5. I jacked the number up for this one.
Yeah, that is a good one. I'm going over.
Going over the 4.5?
Going over.
All right.
I think that they've unlocked some pass rush ability the last couple weeks. Getting Jason Bean 4 times the other night was really impressive.
Yep.
Getting Will Howard a couple times the week before. I can't remember the exact numbers against Kansas State at this point. But I think I'm going to go over just based on the sacks alone.
I can see that. And their increased pressure has also aided in on the interception end.
Yeah.
You mentioned Will Howard. I think even though they didn't sack him as much as they did Bean, the pressure that he was under, where he felt like he had some guys coming free at him, I think maybe led to some throws that ended up being intercepted. I, too, am going over the 4.5 sacks and picks. And now, over or under 3 special team scores. Field goals or a return of some kind.
Oh, field goals count on this?
Yes. Any
over.
special teams. Going
Over.
Okay. I had
Over.
a feeling I maybe set that number too low.
3, that's too easy. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got, what he kicked 3 the other day, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so Alex Hale did. So he kicked 5 the game before, made 5 the game before. That's over. That's a no-brainer for me.
I am going under on
Okay.
this one. I think the red zone offense comes alive.
Okay.
They get touchdowns. I think we might see them go for some fourth downs
That's
on
fine.
a little more.
The problem
frequently,
is Alex Hale could make it from 53, maybe 53 plus. So I don't have to get the red zone for me.
That's
so
true. That's absolutely true.
So I think I'm sticking with my over because I just think they like Alex Hale as the weapon. And Gundy talked about today about going to seeking him out on the sideline to say, hey, you're okay after he missed that one the other day, to try to boost him. He made the one late. I mean, that to me, making the one late signals you got to go over here because they're going to kick it in random
fair.
weird situations. You don't need to kick the field goal.
Absolutely
So
fair. Absolutely fair. All right, with that, we move to the back end of the Stone Cloud six-pack.
Here's the fun part,
final
everybody.
3. That's right, the fun part. This week's draft, TV characters.
yes,
Very broad category. A couple of weeks ago, we drafted Ted Lasso quotes.
yeah.
There are multiple characters on that show that could be in contention
Oh my
here.
gosh.
I know that both of us, though, have soft spots for shows from our childhood, teen, and college age years.
Yeah.
That are important. So this is going to be tricky. Could be all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm very fascinated to see, and as always, because I'm such a nice guy, you get to go first.
This is this is a no-brainer for me.
All right.
Ron Swanson, baby.
I have
Ron
a feeling that would be where you'd go.
Because Parks and Rec, though I didn't watch it till after it was off the air, has turned into my favorite show. I've watched it all the way through, I don't know how many times. And Ron Swanson is a brilliant character. I do not believe politically some of his way. I'm not the libertarian. I believe a lot of what he believes, but I get a kick out of it, and I get a kick out of his personality and the meats. I really bond with his love of meats and
I can see that.
and alcohol and just things like that. And he's so funny. He's just so serious. And Nick Offerman, I think, is brilliant playing that role.
He absolutely is.
And
he's so good in that.
You
character.
just he's such a great actor in that role, and it's so perfect that I just love that character so much. I mean, I have Funko Pops. I have like a statue bust. I have all kinds of stuff of Ron Swanson, and I regret nothing, as he would say. And I have a quote on my desk at the office. It says, never half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. It's a phrase from him, and I live by that, and I love it. And so Ron Swanson is my easy number 1.
Very nice. Now, yeah, you revealed something that I was unaware of. You didn't watch it in regular.
Syndication? Nope.
You didn't not until syndication, huh?
Correct.
So how did you? Was that literally all it was? You just found it in, like
It was on Netflix for the longest time.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
And it was. It was either 20. It was probably 2018, 17, 18. I started watching a high school coaches clinic one night in the hotel room.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm going to finally watch this because I've been wanting to watch it. And some people told me I'd really like it. And I just never had a chance. I started watching it. Loved it. Started watching it as much as I could. And eventually I kept showing parts of it to Ashley. And I said, hey, I think you really like this. Started showing her some clips. She loved it. We started over. And I watched it. And then I've watched it ever since. I own the DVDs. I own the Apple TV stuff. I own everything where I can always watch it whenever I need to.
Very nice. Very impressive.
I'm kind of obsessed, I think. I mean,
That's it's understandable.
all three of my picks tonight could be Parks and Rec characters. And
I can see that.
I mean, I could easily do it, but I'm not going to just to mix it up.
That's fine. That's fine.
I listen to Michael Schur's podcast, The Creator. Like I
Right.
just,
Yeah.
there's a Parks and Recollection podcast. Like I can just go on and on and on.
Right. I listen. I understand, but I was fascinated by you coming to it late because my favorite show, as I've discussed on the podcast before, is Seinfeld. Favorite show of all time. It's no mystery that my first pick is going to be from that show, but I'm not telling you
figured.
who yet. But I was much the same way. That show started in like '89. It was probably about like '93 or so. I started picking up on it in syndication.
Yeah.
When I don't know, I can't remember what channel it was that would show it like 10:30 at night, and I started watching then, and then
Right.
got pulled in. But it was still on the air when I was able to finish out the series from there. But my choice from that show, not always the first one that a lot of people go to. I'm going with George Costanza.
That's a good one.
That's
a good one.
He is always that character has always been so fascinating to me. His development,
Yes.
early on, Jason Alexander. Explained, that he was basically just doing a Woody Allen impersonation for the first few episodes, and then he had this big revelation where he realized that Larry David was basically writing himself into the show, and so he became an extension of Larry David. And Costanza is my by far.
He's brilliant.
I love Jerry Seinfeld and everything that he does, but the George Costanza character is by far.
Yeah.
My favorite. There are a lot of Costanza quotes that I use that people don't even realize are quotes from the show that I just throw into everyday life.
Yeah.
But yeah, by far the piece of that show that I think makes it ties it together, the wackiness and the oddities and things like that. All right, with that, number 2 for you.
Number 2. Well, my other favorite show, and I have not watched this in a long time. I keep needing to do a rewatch. But the problem is I don't have a way to watch it without commercials, and I get annoyed, so I haven't rewatched it. I've got to go with Jack Bauer from 24.
That's a strong one.
Another show I got on late. But I watched part of it on the air.
Okay.
But I missed the first 6 seasons or so, I think, on the air.
Yeah.
So backstory on that is I moved to Lawton out of college to work at the Lawton Constitution. My good friend Matt Franklin loved the show, introduced me to it, but it was like the start of season 7, I think. And so I went back, started buying the DVDs and watching them back from there. Back at a time when there wasn't just everything was streaming. You had to go buy the DVDs or buy the episodes individually or whatever on something. But so I just love the depth. I love the show in general. It was so new and different, and but I love the depth of his character and what he goes through, and just I've just always really enjoyed that show, and it's got to be Jack Bauer. I mean, it's Jack Bauer, right? I mean, it's the man that could save the world in 24 hours.
Yeah. Very good. I'm shifting more to the drama side of the spectrum.
I think I know where you're going.
Gregory House.
Yep. I almost took it just to be. I thought
I got really nervous that you might at some point, and I was like,
because I love that show equally as much as you probably, and so
absolutely that character was brilliant on so many levels. I loved it. That's another show like Seinfeld, like you with Parks and Rec, that I own the entire DVD collection.
I do too. I own that as well.
For the young people, like was a machine,
Yeah.
like it had a little disc. You put it in there, you can watch all the shows.
See, I have 24 on DVD too. I just don't have a DVD player handy that I can watch all the time. The way our situation is. So.
Right. Yeah. So with that, your final pick. I'm feeling safe on my final pick. I'm curious though what yours is.
I could go a lot of directions here. That's the problem with only 3. Go a lot of directions. I'm going to go with Roy Kent.
I had a feeling you might do
Yeah,
that.
we'll go with Roy Kent.
I wasn't sure if you did.
We've talked about Ted Lasso recently and stuff. Roy Kent just makes me happy. Just just everything he does, his grunting, his cursing, his his coaching style, whistle, all that. And the way he grew through that series too, I love it. And I thought about going with some characters from other shows, obviously, but that one, another one that stood out to me was Uncle Baby Billy and Righteous Gemstones. Cracks me up. Raylan Givens and Justified's right there. I probably actually should have went with him, but I'm going with Roy Kent just to hit some comedy, feel good spectrum.
Nothing wrong with that. I knew that was going to be. I knew that would be top 5 for you.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it would crack the top
Raylan
3.
Givens is maybe right there, but I'm going to go with the comedy spectrum. Like, I don't know if you ever watched Justified.
Yeah.
But Raylan Givens is an all-timer for me.
Absolutely.
And Boyd Crowder in that show too. I could
Right.
go either way.
Right. One of my favorite things about actually Brett Goldstein, the actor who plays Roy Kent, is that I was a little bit late coming to Ted Lasso, and so I just started watching it, not really paying attention to who the characters were, who was playing, who the actors were, any of that kind of stuff. Had no idea of Brett Goldstein's involvement in the show. I just
He's
thought
a
he
writer,
was an
yeah.
actor. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yep.
And until I think there's one late in season 1, it pops up written by Brett Goldstein, and I'm like, wait a second, that's the guy that plays Roy Kent.
Yep.
And then I researched everything and found out the whole connection.
Yeah.
And was fascinated
Yep.
by it from that point. All right, I'm going a little bit older, going back to my youth really
Okay.
with this one, because one of the traditions for me, my father, and my little brother a little bit when he got older. Okay, back when we were little, 10:30 every night, right after the news, MASH came on for years.
Oh, yeah.
Years and years. Well, it seems that way. I don't know. It might not have been that long.
Probably been a long time,
It
yeah.
seemed like it was a long time. So that was always our thing. Whenever I had gotten old enough to stay up till 11, got to watch MASH. Then you had to go to bed. Hawkeye Pierce from MASH.
There you go.
Honestly, there were a lot of periods in my life when he probably would have been number 1 on this list, because I've always been fascinated with that show. Always been fascinated with how they wrote it, how they handled it, and his character, played by Alan Alda, was spectacular. And I learned so much from that show and him, and loved the writing, loved everything about it. His character was spectacular. So
Can't go wrong there.
no. Any others that you mentioned a couple of that you also considered. I realize Friends is kind of an iffy show. I really connected with Chandler at that point in my life.
That's fair.
His sarcasm, kind of the way he was treated on the show.
Yeah.
I sort of connected with him.
Marshall on How I Met Your Mother might have been one. I'm trying to think of other shows. There's so many shows that
There were several characters. I don't know that you've watched Veep. Have you watched Veep?
I have not watched Veep. No, I have
Several
not watched that
characters
one.
from that show.
Unfortunately.
Mainly, if I had chosen one, I probably would have gone with Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character of the vice president who becomes president briefly. Anyway, but that's probably where I would have gone. Though there are multiple characters on that show that were fascinating.
Coach Taylor on Friday Night Lights is a good one. Man, there's so many.
And to bring back another show that we have discussed before on the podcast, that's a really under the rock type of show, Sports Night.
Yes.
Dan, played by Josh Charles.
Yeah, that's a good
is
one.
Another one that I'm a big fan of.
That's a really good one too. Yeah, there's so many good shows, and it's hard. The Good Place has so many good characters. I couldn't pick one.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine has so many good characters. I couldn't pick one there either. Parks and Rec. I mean, just all those characters. Like I said, every character I love so much. Even the characters that aren't around every episode, but like Andy Dwyer, like Chris Pratt's character, cracks me up every time. So does Aziz Ansari with Tom Haverford, and just oh my God, that show. But anyways,
All right. Well, it looks like we're getting really close to first pitch.
we
so I
are.
think
Yes,
we're
we
gonna
gotta get out of here.
We're gonna have to wrap this up. So
We got a game to watch.
that's right. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. Drop your score predictions. I got distracted because there's a Texas Rangers alert popping up on the iPad that we're recording this on. So
It's game time.
Lots of fun. It's time to go watch some baseball for him. So we'll get out of here and go do that. But thank you for joining us. Drop your score predictions in the comments so you can win a beer that we will drink for you next week. And thank you, as always, for watching and listening to the Cowboy Chronicles.